and here is the sharing code right here. I'm not going to make anybody type that out. I will copy it and put it in the video description. So that's everything that you need to know about this deck.
Speed of light.
A silence fills the air.
The night is cold.
Let's finish this swiftly.
And look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out! Here's the cover!
There's a deck with Kuching, Diluc, and Bennett. All three of these characters are necessary for the synergy as well as ultimate skills that they all provide, and as well as the amount of damage that they all provide. So let's get into the deck, and I'll quickly show them all here, slide back and forth, and then I'll go through one by one. So the main goal of this deck is to surprise your opponent with massive and abrupt amounts of damage that may cause extreme amounts of disruption to the opponent's game plan, and to oppress them once they're down with even more threats of massive amounts of damage from seemingly nowhere. The damage in this deck comes from your hand, and it's very, very difficult for the opponent to tell what's coming and when it's coming. So a lot of the time your opponent won't even know that it is coming, and when they do know it's coming, if they try to play around it and they prepare and set themselves up, then they're not enacting their own game plan. So there is somewhat of a mind game, even if your opponent knows what you're trying to do. So the crux cards of this deck are Elemental Resonance with Woven Flames, and as Elemental Resonance with Fervent Flames, Adeptus Temptation, and Tandoori Roast Chicken. These four cards are absolutely necessary because they allow you to deal the increased damage that's here. This card as well, called Calx's Arts, will allow you to get off ultimate attacks significantly sooner than it would be reasonably allowable in many other situations. No, you do not gain energy, but you transfer the energy from all other characters to a single character. So someone like Diluc, that would take an extremely long time to get 3 energy, and could risk being killed by the time they gain enough elemental energy. They can get this stuff off on turn 1, pretty much. If not, turn 2. And your opponent will never see it coming. 3 characters having 1 energy apiece and you switching to Diluc is not suspicious. And it only costs 1 energy, and you can use any color for it. So it's extremely effective at taking people by surprise, and it can allow you to choose any one singular character's ultimate, which is most appropriate for the situation. Kuching's ultimate attack does piercing damage, and it allows you to threaten players who revive with Tevat Fried Egg, or if they try to hide with a character that you've done extreme and severe damage to, but they're unable, you couldn't finish them off because they had 8 life or 9 life. Any character that is below 7 life, or that is 7 life or below, or shit, even 8 life or below, is in the danger zone of being one-shotted with his deck. Characters that are 9 life or greater are still in the danger zone because they may be one-shotted by Diluc's ultimate attack right here, which is called Dawn, which deals 8 pyro damage. And if you get an elemental reaction, that's 10 damage. If you're using Fervent Flames, that's 13 damage. If you use Adeptus Temptation with Fervent Flames and get an elemental reaction, that's 16 damage. It's insurvivable. No one can survive, not even a stacked Zhongli. Maybe it might be possible if the stars align, but somebody who stacked that much defense, they knew it was coming. And if they eat this much damage, they're not going to be feeling good afterwards. No one will. And Bennett, he can boost the damage of anybody with his inspirational field. And that is why he's the only one with a signature card, because if your HP is too low, it only heals you. But the signature card makes sure that you get both healed and deal additional damage. So, that's why Bennett's signature card here, I only have 1 copy of it, because it is fairly rare for you to get to a situation where you use Bennett's ultimate, and on top of that, somebody else's ultimate is also ready. Most of the time, you'll use his ultimate and you'll be using normal attacks and elemental skills, trying to stabilize to get your HP, while also attempting to destabilize the opponent. Vanarana and the other cards are here for stalling, but the true heart of this deck, because we only have a very small amount of elemental dice fixing, because we have 1 Ningguang and 1 Paimon card, is to get a hold of a Chef Mao, Zhudong, or an NRE in order to keep our hand of cards replenished and full, because you will frequently tune cards with this deck. It will happen. And that's just a normal thing of Genius Invocation TCG. These characters, when Zhudong is on the field, he reduces the cost of food. Chef Mao is great because when you play him, he will always give you an additional food, and every time you play food, you get elemental dice back. So with these 2 on the field working together, you generate free dice from eating food. And some of these foods only cost 1 dice, and they have high value for the short term. Chef Mao can stack, so he can end up giving you 2 dice. And whenever you play multiple NREs, these multiple NREs do stack to give you additional food, which is excellent. It's wonderful. These dice can help catch your opponent off guard when you only have 1 or 2 dice left, and they think that you don't have any more attacks left, and then you play this Pyro dice, and suddenly you have an additional attack. Now, one of the most important cards in this deck is the switching. So, Winded Freedom, as well as changing shifts, are extremely important, because you only get 8 dice in Genius Invocation TCG. It takes 3 dice to make an elemental attack, and it takes 1 dice to switch. So you would attack, switch, attack. That leaves no room for eating food. If you eat food, you only have enough space, enough dice for 1 elemental skill. So even just having a singular Chef Mao present, or a singular Zhudong present to reduce the cost by 2, immediately allows and damn near guarantees that you can get off 2 attacks. and in some cases you can get off 3 attacks if you have fish and chips, which reduces the cost of elemental skills by 1 per each character, once per round, which is wonderful. But this Winds and Freedom card, it has more than just simply switching. Kuching is the most important character of this deck. She, whenever she uses her elemental skill, generates a special card called Lightning Stiletto. This is the description of it, but the short description of it is, when you play the card, it will switch to her and she will immediately attack. This allows you to always threaten them with a pyro elemental reaction at all times, if they know that you have a Lightning Stiletto in your hand. That means Kuching can pop up at any time and smack them. If you use Winds of Freedom, the order of the characters is important, because when you use Winds of Freedom, you will attack with Kuching, and you will immediately switch to D-Loop, and you'll be ready for an ultimate, or you will attack to build energy with D-Loop. Winds and Freedom, the way it works is, it's after a character uses a skill. Because you switch to Kuching with the Lightning Stiletto and then attack with her, she gets to attack and then leave the field immediately, not giving the opponents a chance to attack your most important member of the team, which is Kuching, because she gets the electro element on the opponents by doing that. The changing shifts is extremely important because it allows you to change even when you have 0 dice left over, or you may use it to preserve 1 dice when you would normally have changed characters. So if you have Catherine on the field for fast swaps or anything like that, that 1 extra dice that you save from changing shifts could be what Chef Mao also saved you, being an additional 1 random dice. And that allows you to have the room to use things like tandoori roast chicken, attack twice, and also be able to switch twice in a single turn. Or at least once. So that's the deck. That's the explanation of how it works. We do have a Hu Tao in this deck, and it may seem a little bit confusing why I randomly have her in here. It's to counter players who use summons, and people that decide to delay or have setups. And if you use this to interrupt their setup, somebody like Shangling or Raiden Shogun, using Send-Off will immediately remove their familiar, and it'll remove the ability for them to use it. So it effectively wastes a lot of opponents' turns. It's only 1 card that's in the deck, so you will frequently tune this card if there are no summons. But it is a very effective counter to a lot of strategies, and it helps with the rushdown strategy of using this deck. So that's the explanation.